Hello, this is Trevor again. I'm back on dry land after having a lovely day out on the boat. And what I'm going to do today, this is a week 0 task. But as I said on the boat, don't worry if you're watching this in week 1 or week 2. It's not too important. As long as you do get around to doing all the work before week 12, I'll be very happy. So I've got Canvas open at the moment. And I'm still setting it up, but I'll show you it's almost done. So except for the home button, everything else is in alphabetical order. And I've got welcome to web programming. Can I just get the teaching material links? The links are just here. Modules, go there. Quick introduction. So if you've watched the video already, of roughly when each section, it's a bit of a rambling talk, but I covered all the topics we're going to get through this period, and I put some timestamps there if you want to zoom ahead or zoom back. And I've got some other interesting materials. So Tim Berners-Lee, he's very much credited for inventing HTML and the World Wide Web, and some other people invented cascading style sheets, JavaScript and PHP. All of these technologies will become useful. And I've got a couple of other links, some inspirational TED Talks regarding sort of online learning and perhaps a different way of looking at education. And finally, a sort of humorous one. If you're like me and you can't stop procrastinating, this guy gives a very good talk. So let's go down the list. So I've got assignments here, as I've said in the seafaring video. We've got 4 assignments. In the past, I have basically A2, A3, and A4 were basically 2 assignments, but students did find them very overwhelming, especially the last one. So I've tried to break them up so they're more even, and they're 3 nice even assignments this semester. And at the end of the period, once the marks are released officially, I can then release the breakdown of the exam. If you've got the results and it's been a couple of days and you're thinking, you know, when we're getting the exam breakdown, send me an email. I may have just forgotten to release the breakdown of the exam, but that will be in, I don't know, probably week 17 or week 18. Okay. So I do not think these will change unless, you know, something bad happens. I may have to rename them assignment 1A, 1B. I don't know. But I'm pretty sure this is how it will be looking when you're looking at it. Now, discussions. I've got a number of sort of topics. I'd just ask you if you can, when you've got a question, have a look through these system issues. One thing I will say with system issues, all of RMIT's help pages now have got a live chat facility, so you can actually chat to someone live. If there's any problems, please get a job number and I can follow that up. Don't say, oh, I spoke to the help desk, they said they can't help, full stop. Get a job number, I can then follow it up and see what's happened. Then I've got sort of 4 areas. So if there's sort of general, you know, general questions about the material topics, please ask them here. But if you think they're more related to the actual assignments, please enter them here. But you can see, say, 4 topics, 4 assignments. You'll find that they're quite related. I have one here, advanced discussion and fun, and also an exam discussion topic as well. So just quickly going through Echo 360. These are the on-campus lectures which I gave. So today I'm really just going to focus on administrivia. and lecture 1 will be HTML1. But I will be preparing, in fact, I'm doing it right now, some TLDR lectures. So I'll go through the lecture notes, and I've kind of got the first one lined up, ready to go. But if you want to sort of have the on-campus experience, then please watch these. These are about 2 hours. They're just under 2 hours each. But I will be trying to give shorter ones that sort of encapsulate the slides. Also, I do update the slides every so often, so you will notice some subtle differences between the lectures and the slides. Particularly typos. I love it when students send me typo spots. If you see any, please send them through. So Google Drive, this is fairly important. All of the materials, all of the teaching materials apart from the lectures and examples are in the Google Drive, and you don't have access to these ones. So let me get into the right one. It's available inside the WP1937 public drive. You can only access this if you are logged in exclusively into your RMIT profile. If you are logged in under 2 profiles, you will sometimes get a thing saying which one would you like to use. Often it will say you don't have access. Send them an email, and I'll get an email from your personal account. And other times you'll just go, you're not authorized to view this resource. I promise you it is because you've got more than one profile running in one tab. And as you can see, I've actually color coded my tab, so I know that this is an RMIT profile. And I have got a little help thing to help you get set up, but I'll get onto that soon. So in this folder, I have all 4 assignments ready to go with the marks breakdown at the back. Lectures and exam. So I've got the lecture sequence there. So if you are stuck, you can't remember this URL right here, I do have I thought I cut that down. So just basically telling you, it's essentially all of the lectures are in this web page over here. You can press print, save A4 portrait, save as a PDF. I'll just step you through that when I move on to the page. But if you want to have a PDF to print out or to, read offline, it's easy. Don't stress. You can do that. Okay, so I'll just go back out. So lectures and exam, I'll drop the practice exams there later in the study period. Tutes and labs, these are all ready to go. So in week 1, I'd like you to do week 1 before the week 1 chat. So kind of week 0, week 1. But if the chat day is later in the week, then obviously you can leave it a little bit later. What I like to do is I like to ask students to fill in a survey. I'll get onto that soon. I'll get onto everything soon. And I generally pick the time that suits the most people. So inside, so we'll just go inside week 1. So basically the lab one, this is what on-campus students do in the lab. Ideally, you should do the tute first and then the lab. It's just reverse alphabetical order, unfortunately. So do the tute first and then do the lab, or do them both together, whatever works best for you. But what I plan to do is in the chat, I will go through the tute and the lab together. And hopefully if you're primed, it means that we can spend more time answering any questions rather than me just doing a sort of labtorial or electoral sort of thing. Okay, so that's them. And I do pop some extra resources in here. So if you see any, so there's a student called Fitzy who used Visual Studio Code, and he's got some tips for you there. And I've also got a Bitbucket fallback if anyone's using Bitbucket rather than GitHub to back up their work. So that's where that document is. And, perhaps there'll be some extra resources in that folder at the beginning of the period and also during the period. So that's the public drive. So let's go back to Canvas. So when you click on this Google Drive link, it'll probably prompt you with a message saying, do you wish to authorize this app to run Google Drive? Say yes, and you will get your Google Drive in Canvas. And you can see this is my root directory, so you won't see this, but you'll see your Google Drive. So this will be nice. You'll be able to, see everything that's in your drive. And if you, which I forgot to do, if you do this, now I've got a thing called move to, but when you do it, you should see an add to. If you add this to your drive, let me try that again. Let me pick the right one. When you say add to my drive, that'll add it to your Google Drive, and then you can move it to a place where you like. So you might keep your WP stuff in a WP folder, or a semester 1 or study period 2 folder, however you like to organize it. When you add to your drive and move it, it doesn't move it out of my folder. It's like a shortcut. So when you've done that, you will then have all the materials on your computer, which is very handy. So marks is where your mark should be. I don't have any students at the moment. I think that's where you see your marks, but I see everybody's marks from this position. Modules, this is the important one. So I'll click on that. I'm just look down here, pages, people, that's where all the staff will be. So I'll pop any staff profiles in there. We've got syllabus. So all of these are in order. And then we've got some other links. I'm not sure if you can see these ones, but these are the important ones, just from A to this S syllabus. Let me just check the syllabus. I want to see if I've fixed it up. Oh, that's good. So yes, I might as well show you the correct date. Let me just change this. Oh, I'd almost set everything up. Okay, so yeah, week 0. I'm assuming you're watching this in week 0 or week 1 or week 2. So course orientation familiarization, have a poke around Canvas, reading lecture 0, and also, watch alongside this video, read alongside this video, whatever works for you. Assessment 1, my first homepage, very basic, just sort of setting up. HTML and CSS, so week 6, week 9, JavaScript programming, and PHP programming in week 12. Hopefully better space than previous study periods. So let's go back to modules. So I've got the welcome to web programming survey. So when you fill this in, as I said, when will be very helpful. We are in Now, these times, please note that it's Melbourne time, so +10. So if you're in Perth, add 2 hours. If you're in South Australia, add half an hour, or Northern Territory. Queensland, add 0. It's fine. So really, I just want to know what day suits you best. Also, if you're unavailable, and then I can work out, what day suits the most number of people, and time, of course, as well. And I've got another thing. I'd just like to see what the skill set of the students are coming into the course. So if you can say none to I have godlike knowledge of this area, just sort of helps me out a lot. And also, finally, how confident are you about passing the course? Just a guess. That's another good sign. Okay, so back here. So Google Drive tutorial. This, you do not need an RMIT profile. This is my super fluffy kitten account. So I step you through how Google Drive works if you've never done it before. The aim is to avoid this message. So when you set everything up, so I've got instructions. These screenshots may be a little bit out of date, but I hope they're not too out of date. You can sort of create a profile. That's your RMIT profile. This is adding WP Public to your drive. And what else have I got? Installing a theme. So the reason why my pages are red is because I use this little handy plugin. I think I've got a link to it, and created, my lovely red profile. And I've got a different profile for my personal one. It's green, and a yellow one for something else. It does help me keep track of stuff. So there's the link to the WP public folder. So when you click that, hopefully, this is the folder that you've just seen me present 5 minutes ago. Okay, so there's that. Now, the weekly chat recordings, I find that Collaborate is very unreliable, so I will be using YouTube. So there is a 15-second delay, but there's less dropouts and less failures, to be honest. The other thing I'll be doing is I will be adding kind of like lectures like this one today in the list, so that you can watch that as an alternative to watching the on-campus lectures in Echo 360. And even refer the links to the left there. Just watch out for this. Sometimes this link says modules something. Sometimes it takes you to pages, and if you click back to pages, if it lets you, yeah, you get this mess. So if you get this mess, just go to modules, and hopefully you can remember where you're going. So online interactive lectures. Now, when you click on this link, it will take you to this page. It will also take you to this page here. So this and this is the same thing, and you can click on this link and open it up in a new window. So I mean, look, modules, like, why can't we have this all the time? So if you click on that link, you'll get this. But you can look at it inside Canvas. There's no problems there. And I've got a secured website, and again, with the lectures and this, a pop-up box will pop up. Just enter your student number, S12345667, and your RMIT password, and you will get this. And it probably won't tell you your name unless I do some reprogramming. But because I'm a tutor, I actually print my name as well as my staff number. You should see your student number there. And so I've got this little website which has got some examples built in. So we'll be looking at these throughout the period. And I've got a couple of other things for you to play with. And this is designed to help you understand. So I'm logging in as Trevor. I'm logged in as Trevor. Now I'm logging out. It's a very simple login, log out facility, which we'll cover in the later weeks in PHP. And I even have a link to a spreadsheet. So part of the assignment 4 is writing data to a spreadsheet, and you can see that I've just logged in and logged out there. The reason why I want you to write to a .text file, some of you may notice that. What's a .text file doing with the spreadsheet? It means that I can just open your spreadsheet if it's got a .text extension and see all the data being saved properly. So more on that later in the period, though. So back to modules. Have I missed out anything? And so some of you may have worked out that this is all you need. But if you like to know what you're doing each week, please click on these. And what I do is I basically sort of spell everything out. So fill in that form so I can work out what time suits. Familiarize yourself with this system. Set yourself up with Google Drive, WP Public. Open the WP YouTube playlist. I won't click on that at the moment. I am recording. I don't want to smash my download. But when you click on that, it should open. And open the online interactive lectures. It's a giant website. So this here. And the following weeks are pretty much more the same. Week 1, week 2. And I also sort of give you maybe a little bit of a summary of what you should be doing that week. So that's how that works. So I'll pop that now into the background and switch now to the lectures. So this is a giant website, and your student ID should appear here. And as you read, you will actually see your student ID popping up a couple of times. So don't get paranoid. I haven't just randomly picked your number. It is deliberately just to keep you sort of awake, like, oh, that's my student number there. How cool is that? And obviously later I sort of explain how I've done that. Now I've got some links up here. I've got an unofficial chat channel, so I'm hoping this will be more social, more maybe not. Maybe if we can keep it safe for work, if that's okay. But it's like an unofficial, non-RMIT chat channel. Go nuts. Just don't be evil. Don't say horrible things. I'd like to keep the Canvas discussion for course-related material, but the Discord can be kind of like a Facebook-like kind of forum to let off steam or whatever. And to be honest, when you paste a link in Discord, it actually works, unlike Canvas. I've got a link to the chats, so if you're here and you can't remember where the YouTube chat link is, it's right here. Click on that button. This is the important thing, print. So you want a PDF version. So whatever you've got open, by the way, it doesn't print them all. It only prints what you've got open. So we're only going to see the administrivia and this blank page. Oh, I know what's happened. This page is a little bit too big, so it's flowed on to the next page. If landscape's not to your liking, go for portrait, and they'll all fit on one page. That's probably a safer option, to be honest. And then you won't get that blank page at the end. So print, save as a PDF, open PDF in preview. Perfect. Alternatively, if you go up to File, now I'm going up to File, unfortunately it's off screen, and what I'm doing is I'm going to select Save Page As, and you can just see what I've been doing just recently. What this will do, this will save the lecture slides on your computer as an interactive offline resource. So you can still enjoy the materials, you can play with the little widgets, answer the little in-slide quizzes, and you can do that offline. You don't need an internet connection to do this. Say save as, it may take a while to download, there's a lot to download, but when you do that, yeah, it's like offline on your laptop or on your desktop. So I'll cancel because I don't want to do that. And click slides only and click away. And that disappears. Hover over it, it comes back. When you want everything back, clicks that link again and everything comes back. So it's sort of designed so you can go full screen or have everything running. Now lectures does collapse. This is a details element which we'll be looking at probably week 1, maybe week 2. I keep forgetting. I've got a search bar here. So it doesn't matter what you have open. If you type something in there, type in color, every slide with the word color will appear. I mean every slide. So but if you type in something more exotic, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, that's only on 1 slide for some obscure reason. I thought that would be on at least 5 slides, but no. Yeah, don't feel you have to go looking through all the slides. You can just type in here and you've got it. And delete your search if you need. Instructions, if you need instructions on how to use this. So basically everything I've just said. I even have some emergency procedure information. You probably won't need how to get out of RMIT, but just in case, have a look around your room right now. Make sure you know how to get out in the event of a house fire. But at RMIT, if you ever come to RMIT, we've got 2 tones. So this one is like, get ready. So that means run back to your office and grab your bag. No, it doesn't mean that, as if it would mean that. And there's the actual evacuate the building tone. And that's when we have to really get out of the building. And a couple of things to do. Don't help people with disabilities. Sorry. Okay. Now, if the text is too small, just do that. If it's too big, do that. And that's... but both will go back to normal when you hit the normal size. So, yeah. Oh, by the way, when you finish that one, you can. These are toggle buttons. So that's how that works. So, lecture 0, Administrivia. Let's do the slides only. And click away. So first thing off the bat, bookmark this URL. Fairly important. It's very important to keep a track on the dates. Like you need to know when the last day to add a course is. I think that's really quick for you guys. I think you've got, what, 24 hours after the period starts. But it's good to know, what that time actually is. Actually, to be honest, I've got people arriving in week 2. What am I talking about? That's not true at all. But this one's important. If you are finding the course a little bit tough, there's a day that you can get out without paying. and without failing. So make sure you work out what that day is. Last day to withdraw. Without failing, you will still have to pay. So this one's called the census date. This one is the, I don't know if that's got a name. That's last day to withdraw, so you get a withdrawn rather than a GPA affecting fail. And of course, the exam timetable. That's another thing you have to be worried about. I suppose that's more relevant for on-campus students. I think. I don't know. I'm sure you get the same thing. Also, make sure you know where your exam is. It's very sad when someone says, "Oh, I thought it was on Wednesday, not Tuesday." If that ever happens, please get a really good excuse lined up. Perhaps you have a really good excuse for not attending the exam, and you can get some special consideration. So questions and queries, maybe the student sitting next to you. Okay, maybe in Discord. I'm going to try and do my best there. Please don't be shy. Have a look on the discussion boards. Has anyone asked the question? Ask the question on the discussion boards. Honestly, 99% of the time, students' questions are relevant. I had a bit of a course hero last semester. I won't say names, but I think she was responsible for about 50% of the questions, and people commented that she was basically asking all the questions that everyone was too shy to ask. So we might not have another student like her this period. So please don't be shy about asking questions, because she certainly wasn't. So I can tell you that much. Now, so this is sort of general stuff. And the other thing is, if you do send an email, it's sometimes I'll send off an email and I won't really think too much about it. Of course, I can always come back to a Canvas discussion thread and edit my answer. And also other students can call me out and say, that's not a proper answer. Whereas if I just reply to your email, it's never going to be as good. So staff communications, obviously not everything is appropriate for Canvas. So obviously there's no tutor or labber or head tutor. It's basically just me and the course coordinator if you're not happy with me. So basically I'm sort of responsible for all of this, and I'll talk about extensions. I'll talk about them in a moment, so I'll just make a little mental note, come back to Canvas and talk about the short assignment extensions. So I'm allowed to give you up to 7 days. So don't be shy. If you really are struggling, let me know. The only thing I caution you about is if you use up, say, 7 days for assignment 1 extension, that means there's no room to move. You'll have to kind of like catch that time up over the period. But if something bad happens, please just ask. Don't fail an assignment when there's a potential extension waiting for you. So I've got some more links, particularly with OUA students. You may feel a little bit shut out or isolated. You can even come into town and visit our counselling service. All of these facilities are open to all students. So just because you're studying OUA doesn't mean you can't come into town and enjoy the campus, shop at our lovely shops, and also use the facilities that are provided to students. So RMIT special consideration, if you need an extension of longer than 7 days and you don't have a DLU or EAA guidance, if you've got one, you know that. If you need advice, here's the link here. I'll be coming to this in 2 seconds. So, obviously you don't want to tell me, you may want to share this with me, or you may decide you don't want to share some serious issues with me. So you can apply directly to special consideration, and I don't need to know your health or, what's happening in your personal life. So, I like to think of myself as an understanding person, but sometimes you just want privacy for your own peace of mind. Now, this is very important. If any of these conditions apply to you and you're not aware of this, please click on this link and try and apply as soon as possible, because teachers are then provided with guidance on how to make your time at RMIT more bearable. And the sort of the thing that's most important is you can ask for longer extensions without having to apply to special consideration. So you just have to use your DLU or EAA guidance as your reason for a longer than 7-day extension. They can also help with exam conditions as well. So even if you slightly agoraphobic, they can put you in a smaller room with 10 people, or even just a small room on your own. No, that's not good for agoraphobia. Other people phobia, say. RMIT counselling, as I said, please feel free to come into town and enjoy the counselling service. And the RMIT Student Union, they can also help you with any issues as well. So take-home advice, a lot of help is available. Don't leave things to the last minute. It's much easier resolving problems when there's time. Now, these are the textbooks. I do get asked the question, do we need to buy them? There's a whole internet out there, but I will say I'm a really big fan of these two books, and John Duckett is bringing out a PHP book. As soon as that happens, this book's gone, and there'll be a nice PHP and SQL programming book to go there. Hopefully there'll be a triple book set, but you can go to Wiley Publishing. But if you don't like their prices, have a look around. You may be able to find these books cheaper elsewhere on the internet, for example. So in the course, we are teaching HTML, which is, if you like, the model, the markup that creates if you like, the wireframe of a web page. It's really just the content, so very static, black and white, not much to it. So that's essentially the content. Then, so that's the first 2 weeks. And then the next 2 weeks, we look at CSS. So any kind of style, sizing, color, layout, borders, drop shadows, even transitions. It's always good to look if you like the sound of transitions and you're finding CSS a lot of fun. Go nuts. You're more than welcome to study more than what we're going to teach you in 2 weeks. And then JavaScript. That's the first 2 weeks. This is weeks 4 and 5, because week 3 we do something different. We just sort of have a look at some websites just to see any fails. Then JavaScript, that's where we start doing some actual web programming. And so on the client side, basically, I don't need to communicate with the web server. So Titan is the web server. It lives at RMIT. And if I do little things like this, so this is JavaScript, essentially. This is my computer that's handling the event handling. So it's looking out for me reaching over and clicking this link. And then when I click on the link, it's running a function, and that function is doing things. So this is JavaScript programming. So real-time user interaction. And then finally, PHP. That's when we submit form data back to the server. And that server then processes our requests and then delivers us a new page. There's also a lot of PHP programming when you're delivering the page for the first time. You may want to have different content depending on how you make a request. So we are covering all these in detail, but this just gives you a summary that these 4 technologies work together to create a web application. So at the completion of this course, I should be able to do these things. So explain this, build web pages using HTML and style them, CSS, and do scripting in both JavaScript and PHP. I think there's a slide saying what isn't in this course, so I'll come down to that fairly soon. So this is a slide saying who uses this stuff. So just saying who uses the stuff. I will say I will come clean on this. I think most commercial web development has definitely moved on from the very basics. This is very much like kind of bricklaying and cement mixer kind of building stuff. When you get onto larger projects, really what you're doing is ordering parts from a prefab factory. So a lot of frameworks, you can sort of kind of build things without going to this low level. But if you do understand the basics, it does mean when you go to framework programming, so you may be programming in Laravel or Ruby or React or something, knowing how PHP, CSS, JavaScript, and PHP works will make your coding more efficient when you turn to using a framework. So shout out to some companies that use PHP or a modified version of PHP, as the case may be. And a couple more links for you to click on and what isn't in this course. So basically, as I said in the video when I was on the boat, we don't have a database, and I think I may have messed this up on the boat. We don't have a database for you to interact with, so what we're doing is we're getting you to write your data to a spreadsheet. So a spreadsheet is very much like a 2D database table, and I've also had jobs where the client provides or uploads a spreadsheet, and knowing how to read from a spreadsheet data in particular, how to read spreadsheet data is quite important, and also how to write back a spreadsheet will also help. Sometimes a client does want a spreadsheet rather than a database. They might not be comfortable with logging into a database. And there's a couple of things we're also not covering, but there are some shout out to some other courses that do cover those things. So these are course topics and tasks. Just make sure there's no changes. So week 0, that's what we're doing now. And I like to have a chat in week 13. Sometimes maybe we'll have an hour chat in week 12 and an hour chat in week 13. I don't mind too much. So I like to sort of finish up in week 12, sort of release an exam around week 12, and then come back and then we'll have a look at that exam in detail. But I like you to have a go rather than me just reading out the answers. That's never a good thing. So this is the course assessment. Some more JavaScript here, by the way. So the practical component is 50%. Includes 4 assignments. I'll make a note to fix that. That's good. This is how easy it is to hack a web page, in case you've ever haven't noticed. So that's worth 50%, and the exam is also worth 50%. The exam's out of 50, out of 100, unless I go crazy. But this calculator, because I'm too lazy to divide by 2 in my JavaScript function, so whatever it is out of 50, just put your mark in here. So there's no hurdles. So let's just say you get 5 out of 5 for assignment 1. Say you do really badly in assignment 2 and you get 5 out of 15, 5 out of 5 for assignment 3, and 5 out of 15. I'm saying out of 15, am I here? 5 out of 15, out of 15, out of 15 for assignment 4. So that means you've got 20% in the practical component. Not very good. That is a fail. But oh my goodness, when you got to the exam, you managed to get 80%. So that's 40 out of 50. And look, you've managed to get a credit. Let's say you managed to get 70%. So 35. Another one. 60. No. Okay, so if you get 60 on the exam, 60% on the exam, that gives you a mark of 50%. I've got those numbers right, have I? Oh, I suppose you got full marks in assignment 1. That's why that's working. Just overestimating that. But let's just say you blitz the exam. If you type in a number too big, it will let you know. So, you can even get a distinction, even if you fail the prac component. Likewise, let's just say you get 4% on the exam, as long as you've done well in the assignments, you'll get a pass, even if you got 4% on the exam. Now I think, if you only want a PA, and you've got full marks, you don't even need to come to the exam. I'm not supposed to tell you that, but, that's the reality. So actually, I'm going to press Shift Refresh because I've just noticed that this seems to be a little bit broken, and I'm just wondering if I haven't got any console errors. By the way, right-click Inspect. You can sort of analyze your code here. I'm just going to hit Shift Refresh because I think I did make some updates to this slide. There we go. These numbers, they were just a little bit out. Wasn't sure why that was. Unfortunately, when you press reset, those handy little fixes go away. So the first assignment is worth 5%, obviously quite small. But people are enrolling in week 1 and week 2. Some people go on holiday, after their exam in the previous study period, and come back and sort of panic. So I want to have an assignment that is only worth 5%, and it's really just honestly lab 1 and lab 2. If you finish lab 2, in fact, if you finish half of lab 2, I think it's lab 1 and half of lab 2. That's 5% for you. Then assignment 2, that's the sort of serious one. It's got a very strong HTML and CSS focus. So that's due in week 6. So that's half the assessment there, 20%. The remaining 30%, so be advised, if you're pacing yourself, it's probably best to try and get ahead in the early weeks so you've got more time to spend on these assignments. So assignment 3, I get you to build a form. It's a booking form, and put in some JavaScript as well. And then finally, there's the PHP programming, which is all about taking the client's order, processing it, making sure everything's fine, writing their order to a spreadsheet, and giving them a tax invoice or receipt for their trouble. So fairly neat little assignment. And as I said, I will talk about the extensions procedure very soon. And there's the exam down the bottom, which is with 50%. I've also got these other assessments. Let me just see if that's actually ready. Oh, here we go, WCP. Notice it's part of the exam group, but I'm not sure if how this will come across in your view, but it will come across in my view. So I'll give you a bit of a little heads up on this one. So from weeks 4 to 10, so I don't want to slow you down too much. When you're doing the tutorials, if you can click on these links and fill in the answers, these aren't actually worth anything unless your mark is on the borderline. So if you've got 48%, 49%, and you've been active all period, then that means I can, grant you a couple of extra marks. I can give you some credit for the work you've done during the study period. Likewise, if you're on 59, 69, 79, I can boost you up to the next grade, as long as you've shown that you have been active and studying hard during the study period. So this is another thing, because we are asked to really have a close look at students on the borderlines, and it's always sad to give someone a genuine 49% or 59%. Any excuse I can get to give you a little bit of extra marks for effort, I will take. So it's only for weeks 4 to 10, so you're clear in weeks 11 and 12 to really concentrate on the final assignment. And of course, the obligatory plagiarism is an offense slide. So to avoid plagiarism, you must give credit whenever you use another person's idea, opinion, code, or even images, opinion, and authority. Okay. So I suppose these are mainly focused for sort of essay focused courses, but in web programming, there's so much on the internet, and this is where I say, let's be honest. If you ignore everything that's on the internet, you're going to find progress is very slow. So what I'm more interested in is making sure that I can understand your code. So if I understand where you're starting from, I can see how you've see what you've sourced and how you've adapted it and what you've done. It's much easier for me to make a judgment call. And to be honest, I do find that students, particularly if you're doing work that's above and beyond what the assignments are expecting of you. So if you're putting on bells and whistles and you find code and you're just trying it out, that is fine, as long as it's cited and it explains what you're doing. And if you're just going for the extra sheen on your assignment, please don't be shy about doing research. Just make sure a marker can understand what's going on, what you've used, what you've adapted, and what's your work. It's all good. So please don't try and be dishonest and get away with something that you're allowed to do. It's very sad when that happens. Also, just for copyright reasons, it's very good to cite where you get images from. Education is allowed a fair percentage of fair use, so so don't feel worried about getting sued. Like Jeffrey Rush has just sued, the papers. That won't happen. If anything happens, you'll get a takedown notice or something first, and it's very rare that you will get sued for money if you use an image off the internet. But just make sure you attribute that, just so that it's clear that you're using it for educational purposes. And that's pretty much lecture 0. So lecture 0 out of the way. So I did say I was going to talk about the late penalties. Application for assignment extension. That said, I will talk about the late penalties after this. So at the beginning of every assignment, also I just say everything's on Google Drive, people. Please go there. Now, when you make a submission, these are like terms and conditions. So you are, it is assumed that you've read these terms and conditions. If you do need an extension, click on this link. If it doesn't open, it's because you've got 2 Google profiles running at once. It'll say you're not allowed to access this around here. Honestly, log in under an incognito window like this. Press copy, press paste. You'll be prompted to sign in. Make sure it's your RMIT one. You will be able to sign in. So this is incognito. It doesn't know who I am. That'll sign in. If you're signing in under another Google profile, let me just simulate that. So this is my Super Fluffy Kittens profile. So I am signed in with a different profile. Look, resource unavailable. How helpful is that? So if you're seeing this, do this. It's just Google being confused. So one thing I do is I just ask you for your full name, just so that I can line you up in Canvas. It's quite important. Also, but if you let's just say, I don't know, say that's your first name, but your English name is Stephen. You can do that if you like, just so I don't reply to your Chinese name. So just tell me which assignment you're applying for. Also, if I know it's not your first request, it means I'll go back through the list and make sure I see your request in context. So and also related to this assignment. So if you're applying for an assignment 2, that will be your first request for assignment 2. So if you're making multiple requests for one assignment, just let me know, just so I don't gloss over that step. Now I've got a couple of checks. Do you need the weekend? I'll come back and talk about that in a moment. I'll just show you what happens. I've got to answer these questions, Trevor. Oh, look, your extension is approved. How cool is that? Okay, so that's the weekend done. So if you need more than 7 days, I give you a little bit of advice. Have you applied to special consideration? Because you have to. So unfortunately, I'm not allowed to give you an extension for longer than 7 days. But if it's less than 7 days, I just say, when can you get it in by? You know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, any of these days. Just give me, just tell me a little bit about your circumstances and upload any supporting evidence. If it's just for a couple of days, I was moving house. That's fine. If it's something more serious, maybe upload, a medical certificate if you want to sort of block out things. But usually doctors will give a very vague certificate just saying how many days you weren't available for. So RMIT likes to have an impact statement. So if your doctor can say you were severely incapacitated for 7 days, that will be very helpful. And trust me, when I say police report, that does happen. So that's not a little joke thing there. So we'll just go back. As I said, particularly with that section, if you think it's too embarrassing, just apply straight to special consideration if the circumstances are too embarrassing. If you have one of these recommendations, so please note students can do this. So don't type 7, overestimate rather than underestimate, because you're only allowed to ask me one with your guidance or recommendation. So just upload that and I can give you an extension. When I say only ask once per assignment, it then resets after that first assignment. And I think that's pretty much it. And I've got a little message if you want to know how to get one. Okay, so that's the assignment extension request. So please fill that in. You can email me, but trust me, it's bad. I wouldn't rely on me with email. If you fill in this, I'm constantly coming back to this because there's a spreadsheet attached to it, and I go to Grade Center and I make sure every student I've granted an extension to in the list, I definitely have in Canvas. So this really helps me keep a track. And when I forget, not if I forget, when I forget to extend your deadline in Canvas, this helps me remember that I have to. So please apply for extensions via this web form. And they're available on every assignment thing. Now, another thing, I was going to talk about the deadlines. So, where do you see the deadline? I think it's up here. So I've got the deadline here. So June the 14th. So that's Friday, June 14th. Oh man, sorry about this. 23. I said 11:59. It's 11:59 p.m. Okay. Now what I do is I set this deadline to be Friday because most people that need extensions only need 2 days to get their assignments in. So this is a bit of a psychological trick. What I do, and what I've always done, is I say the deadline is Friday, but I don't start applying penalties until Monday. Traditionally 4 a.m. Monday morning. So I say, you can have the weekend, but even then, you can have the weekend plus 4 hours. As long as it's in by 4 a.m. Monday morning, it's fine. The reason why I picked that time is because if you get it in at 4:01 a.m. on Monday morning and say, oh, I was a minute late, I can say, no, you're 2 days, 4 hours, and 1 minute late. And it's much easier to say, I'm sorry, but I'm applying a penalty when that happens. So psychologically, think it's Friday. If you need the weekend, it's yours. just apply here via this assignment extension request form, and you have the weekend. You don't even need me to respond. It's that good. Now I'll show you how Canvas works, because unfortunately my secret is exposed to the world. So unfortunately, what I have to do, I might do it. Can I do this without making this public? I'm not sure. Let me investigate. Okay, I'm going to edit. Okay, so this is how I grant extensions, and this is important. If I grant you an extension, you've got to be mindful that your deadline will shift in Canvas. So if I then add an extension, normally what I'd do is I'd start typing your name. This is why I need your complete name from Canvas. So for some reason they don't believe in student IDs. It's everybody's name, unfortunately. So your name will pop up, and I'll click you, and then I'll grant you an extension. So, to this day. And so that'll be your personal extension. So what I do is on the weekend, everyone, I click on this and I extend it to Monday, 4 a.m. But I do that on the weekend because I want to give everyone the psychological prod that, the deadline is on Friday. And then most people who need an extension only need the weekend. And then anyone who needs longer, then, I just progressively create more of these blocks. So the deadline in Canvas will be your deadline. It won't be the standard deadline, and everyone will see different deadlines. So that's what I'm doing. And I won't tell you again. I will just pretend that I never had this conversation with you. Friday is the deadline, so to speak. Okay, so I'll just cancel out of that. And I think I've covered everything. I'm not sure this was really a TLDR lecture. I've got a feeling that this may have gone for more than an hour. But I hope I've covered everything. I hope nothing's confusing. Sorry for all of you who are looking for PowerPoint and stuff. But I promise you, this is far more useful than a PowerPoint presentation. And I guess I will see you in the chat this week, next week, pretending this wasn't recorded a month ago. And I'll press the stop button and stop talking.